Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Cherie here, ready for Direct Joy, Tuesday lunchtime, or if you're watching the replay, welcome to whatever part of the day and whatever day you're at. Thanks for catching up with us. It's great to see you. My name's Cherie. If you haven't been here before, I'm a psychotherapist, psychologist, counsellor, mum, earth-loving, Christian, female, not sure what other labels to think of today, mummy, girlfriend, daughter, sister, celebrating all of that, and coming to you with Direct Joy to share some of the mental health and emotional well-being stuff that I know about that's coming into my world, and just kind of putting out there directly some of the information that I think is important, some of the questions that come into my inbox, some of the questions that pass me on Telegram, Signal, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, all of these wonderful things that we have in our lives that we can think of in two different ways, both as intrusions and as ways to kind of help our development. And that very much kind of introduces where we're at today with Direct Joy. We had a weekend fueled with thinking about change and developmental phases and how we adjust to them, and whether it's about the excruciating pain of change that we know, or whether it's about what we get at the other side of that change and what actually introduces or what we're introduced to when we embrace change and we invite change and we think more on the wavelength of kind of, well, what can happen if I embrace change? And what's all that about? And it's very much, for many of us, it's very much about developmental stages, isn't it? Is that we go through these leaps that get us to a place of actually, okay, what change do I want? What am I inviting? And how do I get there? And I think we really get caught up, us humans, on the how, but actually, what's it like to think of life as the next bit of time? This came to me yesterday, this sense of, what's this next bit of time? And we do make developmental leaps, we do make therapeutic leaps, we do leap in so many different ways, and then we have lulls and we have feasting and purging and cleansing, and we see this in human behaviour, we see this in anthropology, we see this in psychology, we see this in our everyday life, we see it in the world around us, we see it in our kitchens, we see it in our children, we see it in our animals, we see it absolutely everywhere. But what's it like to slow that process down and think about change as maybe not just about avoiding the fear and the anxiety? And the reason I say that is because change brings about some pain, because even if we want it, because it's hard to trust that process. It's hard to trust anything that is unknown and unfamiliar to us, because our ego kicks in. Now, our ego is fantastic. Our ego structure, without getting too much into the nitty-gritty of our psychological and our psyche setup, but we have an ego. And it's not about, I'm not talking about kind of egotistical, that we, that's a different thing, but we have an ego because we need things to be familiar. Our ego keeps things familiar, and when it's not familiar, we go potentially and usually into fear and anxiety. And so our ego goes, no, we don't want change. That's going to bring about a lack of peace, a lack of continuity, a lack of consistency. And oh no, we want to avoid that at all costs. So then we find some resistance, and we find that we can't necessarily trust change, even though we want change. And so what actually happens is that we get stuck in this kind of balance of this an imbalance of, I want that change in my life. I don't know how I'm going to get that change in my life. I'm really scared or nervous or anxious. So how do I actually go through the process of getting something that I'm absolutely petrified of and now in a state of fear and anxiety? It's not going to make my life more peaceful. I'll stop doing it. And we trust that process that our ego puts us in, as opposed to the process of actually, I want that change. And what's the other side of that? What's the other side? And if we can go through that, that builds up a resilience. Now, obviously, it's great if we can do that with a therapist, but that's not necessarily available or something we want to do all the time. So what is it like to do that alongside other people? What's it like to do it alongside ourselves? What's it like to offer ourselves the opportunity to be resilient and to handle that change without it necessarily being painful, without necessarily having to avoid or bypass the anxiety or the fear? And yeah, we find in that kind of in-betweeny stage of building that resilience that, okay, I do really want this. It's kind of a small whisper, isn't it? I do really want this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, what if I fall? Well, what if you fly, my darling? It's one of those moments, isn't it? And in those moments, we find we may be getting certain dreams. We might be getting disturbed sleep where we're awake more and able to listen to that internal voice. So, if you are experiencing that at the moment, and the astrologists amongst us will know that we're in a kind of retrograde at the moment. And what that means is that our bodies tend to go into that retrograde. And without getting into that too much, it is a very much a time of change. And so we see that, if we've got disturbed sleep, how have you got a journal next to you? Have you got a piece of paper next to you where you can just scroll out, what am I thinking about? What's playing on my mind? What is disturbing me? What kind of grief is coming up? What kind of things are nudging me? What kind of things are making me sweat? Literally making me sweat. Now, I don't know about you, but the environment at the moment, the heat is not making me sweat. So what is it about I'm being called to pay attention to? What kind of things in my body, what kind of things in my dream life, what kind of things in my disturbances are saying, actually, come on, what's time to change? And yes, this might be hard, but I've got you. I'm holding your hand. And not abandoning yourself, doing that work to actually say, okay, it's okay. It's okay. We can do this. We have the resilience, and finding that kind of pat on your shoulder. You've got this. And, we have loved ones around us. We have support. We have community. And, we have our ancestral links and families that we can say, yeah, we've got this. We have, therefore, that faith and that trust and that understanding that in our world, it can happen. We don't know how change can happen sometimes. We don't have a Scooby-Doo. But actually, if we have that true faith that this change is going to be good for us, moving through this grief, moving through this pain, moving through whatever it might be that's getting in the way, getting to the other side where we know that change will help us, it will serve us in our lives, that's where we then get faith over fear. And that's where I get absolute sparkle in my eye, because that's the true place of alignment of where you can go, do you know what? That was painful. Change can be uncomfortable, but I can fly. And I really can fly. I can go with that and I can move with it. And I know it can make an absolute difference in my life. I've got this calendar in my kitchen that I've had since I was 21. And it has different quotes every day. But today my absolute favourite quote came up. And I'm sure I probably say this every day and have done for the last, nearly 20 years. But today it really is my favourite quote. And if you're working with me, you will have heard this one, okay? No doubt whatsoever. And it's actually a Bible quote, which, it's an interesting one because it doesn't sound like it on the face of it, which is, again, why I find that quite interesting. But it's consider how the lilies grow. It's from Luke chapter 12, verse 27. What is it about lilies growing? Okay, on the face of it, it's like, yeah, they're lovely. They smell great. They kind of represent different things. Like, we have them for mourning, we have them for celebration. So what is it about how the lilies grow? So I love to talk about this because lilies bloom in June. We're approaching June. And what is that bloom? What is it that happens before the bloom? Lilies don't toil or spin, okay? They don't have that anxiety, that root network. It's different. They don't toil or spin. They don't, and that can be translated to no anxiety. that lack of that absence of anxiety, that absence of fear. They know that they're going to move towards that sunshine. They know without a doubt that they can grow abundantly in fields. They know that they can seek the sun, but they need the shade. And I love all of that language, you know. They know that they can seek the sun, but they need the shade. That's just like me, you know, a sun seeker, but shade needer. Just like you, maybe. They grow slowly, they grow in the dirt, and they reach for the sun. I got that from a website, The Many Little Joys. And I read it before I saw the title, and I just thought that is awesome, isn't it? The Many Little Joys. They grow slowly, they grow in the dirt, and they reach for the sun. And that's, you know, that is certainly my process when I get disturbed sleep, when I get dreams, when I get that nudge to, come on, Cherie, pull it out of the bag. And I put my size 5s where they need to be to myself. You know, that nudge that I really need that sometimes turns into a little bit of a kick to make those changes. And is it then really that excruciatingly painful if I know my process and I know what I need? Now, knowing what I need is different to zoning out, copping out, doing the kind of things that are, you know, going off and, I don't know, taking to my bed and over drinking, overeating, over zoning out, over binge watching telly, over binge doing anything, over. I know when I get into that place and what's it like to get into that place, because that place keeps us in the resistance, and it keeps us in the place where we then find it hard to find the resilience to make the change. So that's where the kind of loop comes in the fact that we want the change, but then we overdo whatever it might be. But what's it like to have that radical self-love? So bringing in another one of my loves, that radical self-love. You know, if I go and eat however many gram bar of dairy milk, it's not going to be the end of the world. And when I'm going through change moments, and when I'm at a particular time of the month, and when I'm in a certain situation, and when I've had a certain day, or the kids have turned around and said, oh, mummy, yeah, you know, I've written you a letter because we'd really like you to not wake up grumpy tomorrow. It's like, oh, now my mothering's suffering as well. When they're going through their changes, I'm going through my changes. We have the dynamic of the house, we have dynamics at work, we have whatever might be going on, and we want to initiate change, and there's all these disturbances. What's it like to then consider how the lilies grow? What's it like to go slowly in the dirt? You know, and I must say, my dirt, I don't get around to hoovering as much as I'd love to. What's it like? What's it like to reach for the sunshine then? Even with the chocolate in my belly. Even with, you know, watching too much Grey's Anatomy. Too much? What's too much Grey's Anatomy, right? What's it like to have that radical self-love for those moments? Because they're the things that help me with my resilience. Yes, the chocolate, but also the radical self-love I can offer myself that, you know what, I am shattered, so I'm going to have an extra coffee today. I am having disturbed sleep, but I'm going to make sure that I put a pen and a bit of paper next to me. What is it like to offer ourselves that? Because that is the moment where we can move through to that next bit of time and that next developmental stage, and we can do it with peace in our heart. Even though our voice might be shaking, we're able to say what we want. We're able to talk our truth, speak our truth. And when we're able to speak our truth to ourselves, to others, to initiate that change, to move forward with that peace, with that faith and that trust and that understanding that this thing, moment, choice, purchase, relationship change, whatever it might be, parenting choice, that's the thing that we can be truly aligned with. I love talking about this stuff. As you know, I can carry on talking about it forever. I love doing Direct Joy. I love hearing your questions. I love what this sparks for you. So please stay in contact. It's awesome to see so many people watching. It's awesome to see so many people accessing the replay. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. So yeah, stay tuned. There is a lot kind of going on behind the scenes of See Joy as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. It's very much my kind of mission to make sure that mental health and emotional well-being stays on the top and tip of our tongues, because yeah, it's so very vital, and so many things go unsaid. Speaking our truth is so hard, especially when the pain has got us. So helping to unravel that, we can do that by, if you know someone that you're just like, do you know what, I haven't chatted to them for a while. I have chatted to them recently, but I think they need a cup of tea, especially now as the world is beginning to open up a bit more. Reach out for that cup of tea, send them that DM, send them a GIF, or, but reach out to them. Whatever you do, reach out to them, because yeah, we're all so precious and we're all so important, and, being able to be directly you to them is just absolutely vital. It's the lifeline of who we are. It's lovely to have Tuesday lunchtime with you, however brief, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Lots of love to you all. So lots of faith, trust and understanding, I think, today. All right, take care, and I look forward to chatting to you next week. Send me any questions you've got. Bye.